The human janitor saved a dying hatchling. It returned with a legion of dragons. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The janitorial deck of Interstellar Trading Hub Epsilon 7 was hardly the place anyone expected to make first contact with an entirely new species. Yet there stood Marcus Dean, mop in one hand and cleaning solution in the other, staring at something impossible. The creature was small, no bigger than a house cat, with iridescent scales that shifted between emerald and sapphire under the harsh fluorescent lights. Its wings, actual, honest-to-God wings, were folded against its body, and a thin tendril of smoke escaped its nostrils with each labored breath. If Marcus didn't know better, he'd say he was looking at a dragon. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered, setting down his cleaning supplies. The little creature's eyes fluttered open at the sound of his voice. They were the color of burnished gold, with vertical pupils that dilated in the light. It tried to rise but collapsed again with a pitiful keening sound. Marcus had been working as a janitor on Epsilon 7 for 3 years now. After washing out of the Galactic Fleet Academy, turned out his motion sickness was incompatible with space travel. Ironically enough, he'd taken whatever job he could get that would keep him among the stars. The trading hub wasn't glamorous, but it saw traffic from all corners of the known galaxy. 17 confirmed sentient species regularly did business here, from the towering, four-armed Voltar to the crystalline, telepathic Shimmer Collective. But nothing like this had ever come through. "Hey there, little fella," Marcus said softly, crouching down. "Are you lost?" The creature's eyes fixed on him, surprisingly intelligent. It made another sound, higher pitched this time, almost like a question. Marcus glanced around the empty maintenance corridor. His shift manager, a particularly unpleasant Voltar named Draz, would be furious if he found Marcus shirking his duties. But he couldn't just leave the creature here. It was clearly injured, possibly dying. "Okay, let's get you somewhere safe," he decided. Carefully, he removed his uniform jacket and laid it on the ground. The creature watched his movements warily but didn't try to flee, probably because it couldn't. With gentle hands, Marcus scooped up the jacket, cradling the small dragon-like being inside. It was surprisingly warm, almost hot to the touch, even through the fabric. As he lifted it, the creature let out a small hiss, but settled when Marcus held it close to his chest. "It's okay," he murmured. "I'm going to help you." His one-room quarters were several levels up, in the station's residential sector. As he made his way there, Marcus kept the creature concealed, nodding casually to the few beings he passed in the corridors. Most paid him no attention. Janitors were practically invisible on stations like this one. Once inside his small room, Marcus gently placed the jacket bundle on his bed. The creature had grown alarmingly still during the journey, and for a moment, he feared it had died. But as he carefully peeled back the fabric, those golden eyes opened again, regarding him with what seemed like curiosity. "What are you?" Marcus whispered. "And how did you get on this station?" The creature made no response, of course. Up close, Marcus could see it was in bad shape. Its scales, though beautiful, were dull in places, and its breathing was shallow and irregular. A dark substance, blood, had dried along one of its hind legs. Marcus had no idea what the creature needed, but water seemed like a good start. He filled a shallow dish and placed it near the dragon's head. To his relief, the creature extended a surprisingly long, forked tongue and began to lap at the water thirstily. "Good. That's good," Marcus encouraged. Food was trickier. What did dragon-like aliens eat? Meat seemed like a safe bet. He rummaged through his small refrigeration unit and found some synthesized protein strips, not exactly prime steak, but it would have to do. He tore one into small pieces and offered a bit to the creature. It sniffed cautiously, then snatched the morsel with surprising speed, swallowing it whole. Within minutes, the entire protein strip was gone, and the little dragon seemed slightly more alert. "You were hungry, huh?" Marcus smiled. "I'm going to call you Spark, just until I figure out what you really are." Over the next few days, Marcus established a routine. He would go to work as usual, cleaning the endless corridors and public spaces of Epsilon 7, then rushed back to his quarters during breaks to check on Spark. The creature's condition improved rapidly, suggesting either remarkable healing abilities or that it hadn't been as badly injured as he'd first thought. By the third day, Spark was exploring the small room, climbing the sparse furniture with surprising agility. The wound on its leg had completely healed, leaving only a slightly darker patch of scales. It still couldn't, or wouldn't, fly, keeping its wings tucked tightly against its body. "You're looking much better," Marcus told it, watching as Spark perched on the edge of his desk, tail swishing back and forth. "But I still have no idea what to do with you." The station had strict protocols about unregistered life forms. If he reported Spark, the creature would be confiscated and quarantined, possibly even destroyed if it was deemed a potential biohazard. Marcus couldn't bear the thought. But keeping Spark hidden indefinitely wasn't a solution either. The dragon was growing, already nearly twice the size it had been when Marcus found it. And it was intelligent, disturbingly so. More than once, Marcus had caught it watching the educational videos he played on his datapad, head tilted as if in concentration. On the seventh day, everything changed. Marcus returned from his shift to find Spark sitting in the center of his bed, wings fully extended for the first time. They were magnificent, translucent membranes stretched between delicate bone structures, with the same color-shifting quality as its scales. "Wow," Marcus breathed, setting down his bag. "Look at you." Spark folded its wings and fixed him with that golden stare. Then, it did something that made Marcus's blood run cold. "Marcus," it said, in a voice like wind through crystal. He stumbled backward, hitting the wall. "You can talk." Spark tilted its head. "Learn. Watch. Listen." Each word was carefully enunciated, as if testing how they felt. Marcus slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, eye level with the creature on his bed. "Holy shit," he whispered. "You're sentient." "Sentient," Spark repeated, then after a pause, "Yes." "What are you? Where did you come from? How did you get on the station?" The questions tumbled out of Marcus in a rush. Spark seemed to consider this, then spread its wings again. A series of images suddenly filled Marcus's mind. A massive spacecraft unlike any design he'd ever seen, filled with creatures like Spark, but much, much larger. A blinding flash of light, alarms blaring. Spark, small and frightened, hiding in a ventilation shaft as the ship broke apart around it. An escape pod, and then the cold emptiness of space. The images vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving Marcus gasping. "Was that telepathy?" he managed. "Show you," Spark said simply. "My home. Gone." Understanding dawned on Marcus. "You were in a shipwreck. You ended up here somehow. Maybe your escape pod was picked up by one of our cargo ships? And you're just a child, aren't you?" Spark didn't respond directly, but Marcus saw a small flame flicker between its teeth, the first sign of the fire-breathing capabilities he'd half expected from something so dragon-like. "My kind," Spark said after a moment, "not gone. Just far." "Your family is still out there?" Marcus asked, hope rising in his chest. If Spark's people were a space-faring civilization, perhaps they were searching for their lost child. But why hadn't they made contact with the known species of the galaxy? Before he could ask more questions, his data pad chimed with an incoming message. It was Draz, his supervisor, demanding he report to Sublevel C immediately to clean up after a Shimmer Collective delegation. They were notorious for leaving behind crystal shards that could slice through standard-issue boots. "I have to go," Marcus told Spark reluctantly. "But we'll talk more when I get back. Promise you'll stay here." Spark settled back on the bed, wings folding. "Promise," it echoed. The cleanup took longer than expected. The Shimmer had apparently been particularly agitated during their meeting, shedding fragments everywhere. By the time Marcus finished, his shift had officially ended, and he hurried back to his quarters. He found Spark exactly where he'd left it, but the dragon now had Marcus's data pad between its front claws, images flashing across the screen faster than human eyes could follow. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked, alarmed. Spark looked up. "Learning. Your worlds." Your species. Its vocabulary had expanded remarkably in just a few hours. Many different beings here, but no records of my kind. No, Marcus agreed, sitting on the edge of the bed. I've never seen or heard of anything like you before, and I've been around the station long enough to see most known species. Spark's golden eyes seemed to glow in the dim light of the room. We stay hidden, watch from far places. Why? Marcus asked. If your people have space travel technology, why haven't you made contact? The dragon was silent for a long moment. Not ready, it finally said. You all species here still fight, still hurt, still fear difference. It was a fair point. Despite the cooperation exemplified by places like Epsilon 7, the various species of the known galaxy were hardly one big happy family. Territorial disputes, resource conflicts, and deep-seated prejudices still plagued interspecies relations. But you're talking to me, Marcus pointed out. Spark's mouth opened in what looked remarkably like a smile. You helped. When I was weak. No questions. Just helped. Marcus felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. Anyone would have done the same. No, Spark said with surprising firmness. Watched many beings pass. Only you stopped. The implications of that statement were uncomfortable. How many people had walked past the injured creature without a second glance? Over the next few weeks, Spark continued to grow and learn at an astonishing rate. Its command of human language became nearly perfect, though it still occasionally communicated through the startling mental images when concepts were too complex for its vocabulary. Marcus learned that Spark's species, who called themselves something unpronounceable that conveyed a sense of starfire dancers in the mental images, had been observing the development of other intelligent life in the galaxy for millennia. They had a strict policy of non-interference, believing that civilizations needed to evolve at their own pace. But if you've been watching us for so long, why haven't we detected you? Marcus asked one evening as they shared a meal. Spark had graduated from protein strips to actual cooked meat, which it roasted to perfection with careful bursts of flame. Hide well, Spark explained, delicately picking apart a piece of synthetic chicken. Ships blend with stars. Homes inside dead moons, gas giants. Some of us can change how light bends around our bodies. Invisibility, Marcus breathed. That's incredible. Spark tilted its head. Natural for us. Like your breathing. The dragon was now the size of a large dog and had taken to perching on top of Marcus's storage unit when they weren't talking. It was becoming increasingly difficult to keep hidden, especially as it needed to exercise its wings. Late at night, when the station's corridors were at their emptiest, Marcus would sometimes sneak Spark to the largest maintenance bay, where the dragon could fly short distances in the cavernous space. It was during one of these excursions that disaster struck. They were making their way back to Marcus's quarters, Spark concealed as best as possible beneath a maintenance tarp, when they rounded a corner and came face to face with Draz. The vaulter's 4 eyes widened in shock, all of them focusing on the poorly hidden form of Spark. Dean, Draz bellowed, using all 4 arms to point accusingly. What is that? Before Marcus could formulate a response, Spark threw off the tarp and reared up to its full height, wings extending menacingly. A low growl emanated from its throat, and wisps of smoke curled from its nostrils. No, Spark, don't. Marcus stepped between them, arms outstretched. He's not a threat. But Draz was already backing away, all 4 hands reaching for the emergency communication device on his belt. Unregistered life form, he shouted into it. Potentially dangerous. Section D, Level 4. Security teams respond immediately. Run, Marcus told Spark urgently. Get back to my quarters. I'll handle this. For a moment, it seemed the dragon might refuse, golden eyes still fixed on Draz with predatory intensity. Then, with a sound like rushing wind, Spark bounded past both of them and disappeared down the corridor. Are you insane, Dean? Draz hissed, keeping his distance. That thing could be carrying interstellar pathogens. It could be dangerous. It's not dangerous, Marcus insisted. I've been caring for it for weeks. It's intelligent, Draz. Sentient. It can talk. All the more reason it should have been reported immediately. The vaulter's skin had turned a mottled purple with anger. You violated at least 15 station protocols. You'll lose your job for this. Probably face criminal charges too. The sound of approaching security teams echoed down the corridor. Marcus knew he had only moments to decide what to do. "I'm sorry," he said, and then he ran, sprinting in the direction Spark had gone. He could hear Draz shouting behind him, then the heavier footfalls of security personnel giving chase. Marcus knew the maintenance corridors better than anyone except perhaps the engineering teams, and he used every shortcut and service tunnel he could think of to lose his pursuers. By the time he reached his quarters, he was breathing hard, heart pounding in his chest. Spark was waiting, agitated, wings half spread in the confined space. "They'll find us here," Marcus gasped, grabbing his emergency pack from under the bed, the one he'd always kept ready in case he ever needed to leave the station in a hurry. "We need to go." "Where?" Spark asked, voice tense. Marcus ran a hand through his sweat-dampened hair. "I don't know. The docking bay, maybe? We could stow away on an outbound ship." Spark's golden eyes seemed to look through him. "No," the dragon said. "Have better way." Before Marcus could ask what it meant, Spark's consciousness brushed against his mind, stronger than ever before. An image formed, a section of the station he recognized as the rarely used emergency shuttle bay. Then, a specific shuttle and codes to unlock it. "You want to steal a shuttle?" Marcus asked incredulously. "I can't pilot a spacecraft. Remember the whole washed out of Flight Academy thing?" "I can," Spark said simply. Marcus stared at the dragon. "You can pilot a human shuttle? Learn from your data. Simple compared to my kind's ships." There was almost a hint of disdain in Spark's tone. "Need your hands to operate controls. We'll guide you." It was insane. But as the station-wide alarms began to blare, Marcus realized they had no other options. "Okay," he agreed. "Let's do it." They made it to the emergency shuttle bay with surprising ease. Most of security was searching the residential sectors. The shuttle Spark had identified was small, designed for station personnel to evacuate in case of catastrophic system failures. It had minimal life support and enough fuel for perhaps a week of travel at sublight speeds. As Spark had shown him, Marcus input the emergency override codes, standard procedure for all station employees, though using them without authorization was a serious offense. The shuttle's hatch hissed open, and they climbed inside. Spark immediately moved to the co-pilot's seat, looking comically out of place with its wings folded awkwardly against the restraints. "Power on," the dragon instructed. Marcus pressed the sequence of buttons, and the shuttle hummed to life. Now what? Instead of answering verbally, Spark projected another series of images directly into Marcus's mind. Precise sequences of controls to engage, overrides to activate, protocols to bypass. "This is illegal on so many levels," Marcus muttered, but his hands moved across the control panel, following Spark's guidance. The shuttle's systems responded, emergency protocols engaging as the bay doors began to open automatically. Outside, Marcus could see security teams rushing into the bay, weapons drawn. "Go now," Spark urged. Marcus hit the thrusters, and the shuttle shot forward, through the atmospheric barrier and out into open space. The sudden acceleration pinned him to his seat, and he fought against the familiar nausea that had ended his career as a fleet pilot. "Don't throw up, don't throw up," he chanted to himself. Beside him, Spark seemed completely unaffected by the G-forces, those golden eyes fixed on the starfield ahead. Through their mental connection, Marcus felt a surge of something like exhilaration from the dragon. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked when he could speak again. Spark turned those ancient eyes toward him. "Home," it said simply. The shuttle's communication system crackled to life, filled with the angry voices of Epsilon 7's security chief, demanding their immediate return. Marcus switched it off. "You're home?" he asked Spark. "But I thought you said it was far away." "Not as far as you think," Spark replied cryptically. "Follow my guidance." For hours, they traveled in a direction that seemed arbitrary to Marcus, away from the main shipping lanes, toward a seemingly empty sector of space. Occasionally, Spark would direct him to adjust their course, the dragon's mental touch becoming more excited, more urgent as they proceeded. "We're almost out of fuel," Marcus warned as they approached the 12-hour mark. "Whatever you're looking for, I hope it's close." "There," Spark said suddenly, pointing with one clawed hand toward what looked like empty space. Marcus squinted. "There's nothing there." "Look differently," Spark urged, and suddenly Marcus's mind was flooded with the dragon's vision, a spectrum beyond human perception, where the apparently empty region of space was actually occupied by a massive distortion, like a heat haze on a summer day. "What is that?" he breathed. "Gateway," Spark explained. "Hidden fold in space. Leads to safe place." As they approached, the distortion became visible even to Marcus's unaided eyes, a subtle bending of starlight around a region ahead. Spark guided his hands on the controls, making minute adjustments to their trajectory. "Will feel strange," the dragon warned. "Do not fear." Before Marcus could ask what that meant, the shuttle seemed to elongate, stretching impossibly as it approached the invisible boundary. His stomach lurched, worse than any spaceflight sickness he'd ever experienced. For a moment that seemed to last an eternity, he felt as if he was being pulled in every direction at once. Then, with a sensation like passing through a soap bubble, they were through. Marcus gasped. The starfield had completely changed, and directly ahead of them floated what could only be described as a space station, but unlike any he had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of Epsilon 7, but with an organic, flowing design that reminded him of coral formations. Parts of it seemed to be actually alive, pulsing with bioluminescent light. And surrounding it, moving in complex patterns, were hundreds, no, thousands, of creatures like Spark, but much larger. Dragons in space, their wings somehow propelling them through the vacuum, scales glittering like living stars. "My home," Spark said, and there was such longing in its voice that Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. "My people." As they approached, several of the larger dragons broke formation and moved toward their shuttle. Marcus felt a moment of panic. They were massive, some larger than the shuttle itself. "They won't hurt you," Spark assured him, sensing his fear. "You are with me. You saved me." The shuttle's systems suddenly came under external control, guided gently toward a docking port that opened like a flower on the side of the living station. "What happens now?" Marcus asked, suddenly aware that he had fled his home, his job, his entire life, and was now completely at the mercy of an alien species no human had ever encountered before. Spark's golden eyes met his. "Now," the dragon said, "you meet my mother, queen of all our kind." The shuttle settled into the docking cradle with a gentle thump, and the external atmosphere readings suddenly changed, showing breathable air outside. "Wait," Marcus said, a thought suddenly occurring to him. "Is your mother going to be angry that you were lost? That you revealed your existence to me?" Spark made that strange, dragon smile again. "No," it said confidently. "She will be grateful. Time of hiding is ending. You have shown us something important." "What did I show you?" The dragon's voice took on a solemn quality. "That perhaps, after all these centuries of watching, at least some among the younger species are ready to meet us as equals, ready to see beyond differences." The shuttle's hatch began to open, revealing a corridor that seemed made of living crystal, pulsing with soft, multicolored light. "Come," Spark said, rising from the co-pilot's seat. "New journey begins." As Marcus stood on shaking legs, preparing to become the first human to make official contact with this ancient, hidden species, he couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. "What is funny?" Spark asked, pausing at the hatch. Marcus shook his head, smiling. "Just thinking, all those diplomats, all those fleet admirals and xenobiologists who dreamed of making first contact with a new intelligent species. And in the end, it was a janitor who dropped out of flight school." Spark's mental touch was warm with affection. "Best kind of person to meet us," the dragon said. one who sees value in all life, who helps without being asked. A pause, then, one who is not afraid to be friend to a monster. You're not a monster, Spark, Marcus said firmly. The dragon's golden eyes glinted with something like mischief. Tell that to Draz. Together, they stepped through the hatch, into a new chapter of galactic history, one that began not with grand diplomacy or military might, but with a simple act of kindness from a human janitor who saved a dying hatchling. The corridors seemed to breathe around them, pulsing with soft light that responded to their movements. Marcus walked beside Spark, trying not to gape at the architecture that defied human engineering principles. Nothing was static. Everything flowed and shifted with subtle grace. Your station is alive, Marcus observed, running his fingers along a wall that felt warm and slightly yielding, like skin over muscle. Yes and no, Spark replied. Grown, not built. Symbiotic relationship. Station provides home. We provide energy. They passed several adult dragons along the way, each displaying a stunning variety of hues, ruby reds, deep violets, silvery whites. They regarded Marcus with obvious curiosity, but none interfered with their progress. Finally, they reached what could only be described as a throne room, with what appeared to be a living star field embedded in its walls. Actual stars and nebulae, miniaturized somehow, and contained within the structure itself. At the center was a dragon that dwarfed all others. Its scales were a deep midnight blue, shot through with veins of gold that mapped constellations across its body. Wings the size of solar sails were partially folded against its massive form. Queen Mother, Spark said, lowering its head in deference. I have returned. The great dragon's eyes, not gold like the others, but a swirling vortex of purples and blues, like galaxies in miniature, fixed on Spark, then shifted to Marcus. When it spoke, the words materialized directly in Marcus's mind. My child, the Queen's voice resonated. We thought you lost when the observer vessel was destroyed. I would have been, Spark replied, if not for this human. Marcus Dean. He found me injured, near death. He saved me, sheltered me, taught me, protected me. Those cosmic eyes turned their full attention on Marcus, who fought the urge to kneel or bow or run. Hello, he managed. It's an honor to meet you. Marcus Dean, she acknowledged, her mental voice softer now. You have done our people a great service. The loss of even one child is deeply felt among our kind. I just did what anyone would do, Marcus said. No, the Queen corrected. You did what few would do. You saw a creature unlike anything in your experience, potentially dangerous, and your first instinct was compassion. This is rare, even among species far older than humanity. The Queen rose from her position, and Marcus realized she was massive, easily the length of a frigate-class ship from nose to tail tip. Walk with me, Marcus Dean, she invited. There is much to discuss. As they walked, smaller dragons moved respectfully out of their path, some dipping their heads in what was clearly a gesture of respect. Your civilization, Marcus began hesitantly. How long have you been spacefaring? By your species' method of time measurement, approximately 12 million years. Marcus stumbled, nearly losing his footing. 12 million years? That's before humans even evolved as a species. Yes, the Queen acknowledged. We have watched your kind rise from simple tool users to your current state, one of many species we have observed over the eons. They entered another chamber containing a three-dimensional star map of the galaxy. Tiny lights representing stars and planetary systems glowed in accurate relative positions. The bright clusters are civilizations we actively monitor. The blue ones are pre-space flight. The green have achieved interstellar travel. The yellow have reached the capability for intergalactic exploration. Marcus noted that Earth and its nearby colonies were marked green. And your people? He asked. Where are you on this map? The Queen made a gesture, and suddenly the entire map shimmered, revealing previously invisible red points scattered throughout the galaxy, hundreds of them, connected by faint lines. We are everywhere, she said simply. Observing, learning, occasionally, guiding, though always subtly. Why remain hidden? Marcus asked. With your technology, your knowledge, you could have helped so many civilizations, prevented wars, disease, suffering. We learned, early in our expansion, that direct intervention rarely benefits younger species in the long term. Those given solutions without discovering the underlying principles become dependent, unable to innovate when new challenges arise. She indicated a dark region where stars seemed to be missing. Here, 5 million years ago, we revealed ourselves to a promising civilization, shared our knowledge freely. Within 3 generations, they had weaponized our gifts, destroyed 3 neighboring species, and ultimately themselves. I see. But, the Queen continued, there comes a time in each civilization's development when contact becomes necessary, when the benefits outweigh the risks. Your species, and several others, are approaching that threshold. And my helping Spark has something to do with this decision? Marcus guessed. It was a test, of sorts, though not deliberately engineered. The observer vessel's destruction was a genuine accident. But your response to finding a creature so different from yourself provided valuable data. A smaller dragon entered the chamber and approached the Queen with obvious urgency. After a silent exchange, the Queen turned to Marcus. Your departure from Epsilon 7 has caused quite a stir. The station has sent out emergency communications reporting a dangerous creature and a kidnapped human. Several patrol vessels are searching the sector. The Queen turned to the messenger dragon. Prepare the diplomatic nexus and assemble the revelation flight. The dragon departed swiftly, and the Queen turned back to Marcus. Events move quickly now. You have a choice to make. You may remain here as our guest and first official human ambassador, or you may return to your people and help ease the transition as we make ourselves known. You're going public? Now, because of this, the timing is fortuitous. Better to reveal ourselves on our terms than to have wild speculation spread throughout the galactic community. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. I'm just a janitor. I'm not qualified to be an ambassador. Spark moved closer to him. You understand us. You see with heart, not just eyes. Better qualification than many diplomats. I'll return, Marcus decided. I'll help explain, if I can. But I want Spark to come with me. The young dragon's head snapped up in surprise. You want me there? Of course, Marcus said. You're the reason for all of this. And frankly, I'll be more believable with you beside me. The Queen led them to an observation deck that offered a breathtaking view of space. Outside, dozens of the largest dragons Marcus had seen were assembling in a formation, each adorned with ceremonial armor. The Revelation Flight, the Queen explained, is our diplomatic vanguard. Warriors, scholars, and healers who have trained for centuries for this moment. How soon do we leave? Marcus asked. Immediately, the Queen replied. A smaller dragon approached, carrying what appeared to be a ceremonial garment, a cloak of shimmering material that caught the light in impossible ways. For you, the Queen explained as the dragon draped it over Marcus's shoulders. A symbol of your status as friend of the Starfire Dancers. It will also help protect you during space transit. Marcus and Spark were escorted to a transition chamber. As the outer door opened, revealing the blackness of space, Marcus expected to feel the vacuum tear the air from his lungs, but nothing happened. He could breathe normally. Told you, Spark said, sounding smug. Now hold on to me. The young dragon positioned itself beside Marcus, who gripped the ridges along Spark's neck. As soon as his hold was secure, Spark launched them both out of the chamber and into open space. The sensation was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Spark's wings didn't flap, but rather seemed to manipulate the fabric of space itself. Around them, the Revelation Flight assembled 47 adult dragons in precise formation. As they approached Epsilon 7, Marcus could see multiple military vessels surrounding the station, their weapons systems powered and ready. Oh no, Marcus groaned. They're on full military alert. First contact scenarios typically trigger defensive postures, Spark replied calmly. Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation around his throat. When he spoke again, he knew his words were being transmitted directly to the station and assembled ships. "This is Marcus Dean of Epsilon 7 Janitorial Services," he announced. "I am returning voluntarily with representatives of a previously unknown species who wish to establish peaceful diplomatic relations. Please hold your fire and alert Station Command." There was a long silence. Then, Station Commander Illyria Porter responded. "Dean, is that really you? Are you under duress?" "No, Commander," Marcus replied. "I'm perfectly safe. These beings, they call themselves the Starfire Dancers, saved me after I helped one of their young." Admiral Thorne of the Galactic Fleet cut in. "Unidentified entities, remain at your current position. Any movement will be considered hostile intent." The lead dragon of the Revelation flight projected calm assurance to Marcus. "Allow me," it requested. Marcus nodded, and the dragon's voice replaced his in the transmission. "Admiral Thorne, Commander Porter, representatives of the younger races. I am Harold Sunforge of the Starfire Dancers. We have observed your civilizations since before you first looked to the stars. We come in peace and friendship." Finally, Commander Porter's voice returned. "Harold Sunforge, we are not authorized to conduct first contact protocols with a new species. We must consult with our respective governments." "Of course," the Herald replied. "To demonstrate our peaceful intentions, we offer to return Marcus Dean to your station immediately, if he wishes." "I'll return to the station," Marcus decided. "But I'd like to request that Spark be allowed to accompany me, as a gesture of trust on both sides." Commander Porter gave her cautious agreement. "A single representative may accompany you, Dean. We're opening Docking Bay 12 for your arrival." As they approached the docking bay, Spark projected a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "First official contact. Mother will be proud. Just stay close to me," Marcus advised, "and try not to set anything on fire." They passed through the atmospheric barrier, and Marcus found himself standing on solid deck, plating once more, Spark beside him. A full security team awaited them, weapons drawn but not aimed directly at them. "Commander," Marcus greeted Porter with a respectful nod. "May I present Spark of the Starfire Dancers, child of their queen." Spark dipped its head in a formal bow. "Greetings, Commander Porter. I am honored to be the first of my kind to officially visit your station." Over the next few hours, the highest diplomatic authorities of each species represented on Epsilon 7 were contacted. Emergency protocols for first contact scenarios were activated. Marcus and Spark found themselves at the center of attention in a makeshift diplomatic reception area. Suddenly, the communication system chimed with an incoming transmission from the Revelation flight still positioned outside the station. Harold Sunforge's voice filled the room. "Representatives of the younger races, we have received communication from our queen. She wishes to address you directly." The view screen activated, showing the starfield outside the station. The formation of dragons parted, revealing the queen herself. "People of the younger races," her voice resonated, both in the room and in each individual's mind simultaneously. "For millions of years, we have watched your civilizations grow. We have waited for the moment when meeting us would bring more benefit than harm." She paused, her gaze seeming to linger on Marcus. "A simple act of compassion has convinced us that this moment has arrived. The human Marcus Dean, with no thought of reward, saved one of our children. In doing so, he has opened a door that has remained closed for eons. We offer you friendship. We offer you knowledge, not freely given, for that which is not earned is seldom valued, but shared as equals when you are ready to receive it." Commander Porter stood and addressed the Queen. "Your Majesty, on behalf of humanity and all species represented here, we accept your offer of friendship. This is an unprecedented moment in our history. As a gesture of our commitment to this new relationship, we will establish a permanent diplomatic presence here," the Queen said. "And, if he is willing, we would like to appoint Marcus Dean as our official liaison to humanity." I'm not qualified," Marcus protested weakly. "You are precisely qualified," the Queen countered. You saw value in a strange creature when others would have seen only threat or opportunity. I accept, he said finally, though I'll probably need some diplomatic training. The Queen's mental touch carried something like amusement. That can be arranged. And do not worry about your former position. I suspect the station can find a new janitor. Commander Porter actually smiled at that. I think we can find a more suitable role for Mr. Dean, given the circumstances. In the days that followed, news of the Starfire dancers spread throughout known space. Reactions ranged from fear to excitement, from religious awe to scientific fervor. But as the dragons proved their peaceful intentions through actions rather than just words, helping to resolve a dangerous asteroid cluster threatening a colony world, sharing medical knowledge that cured a devastating plague on another, the initial alarm gave way to cautious optimism. 6 months after first contact, a formal embassy of the Starfire Dancers was established on Epsilon 7, with Marcus Dean officially recognized as ambassador liaison by both the Dragons and the United Galactic Council. The once overlooked janitor now walked corridors of power with the same care and attention to detail he had once applied to cleaning them. Spark, now nearly twice the size it had been when Marcus first found it, had become something of a celebrity among both dragons and the younger races. The young dragon served as junior diplomatic attaché, using its unique perspective as both a member of an ancient species and the first to form a genuine friendship with a human. On the anniversary of their meeting, Marcus and Spark stood at a viewport overlooking the permanent draconic structure now orbiting alongside Epsilon 7, connected by a specialized transit tube that accommodated beings of all sizes. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Marcus asked, gesturing to the scene before them, where dragons and members of a dozen other species moved freely between the two stations. Spark shook its head. "When you found me, I had no hope beyond survival. You gave me more than life, Marcus. You gave all of us a new beginning." Marcus smiled, adjusting the formal diplomatic attire that had replaced his janitor's uniform. "Not bad for a dropout with a mop." "The universe," Spark said, golden eyes gleaming with wisdom beyond its years, "doesn't care about titles or backgrounds. It cares about what we do when faced with a choice between compassion and indifference." As if to punctuate the dragon's words, a small group of children from various species ran past, laughing and playing a game that involved trying to touch Spark's tail. The young dragon obligingly swished it just out of reach, to squeals of delight. "Speaking of choices," Marcus said after the children had moved on, "the Queen has invited us to visit the homeworld next month. First non-dragons ever to see it." Spark's excitement was palpable, rippling through its scales in waves of iridescent color. "You'll love it, Marcus. The crystal forests, the gravity pools, the ancient libraries carved into the cores of dead stars. There's nothing like it in known space." "I can't wait," Marcus replied honestly, "though I'm a little nervous about meeting the Council of Elders." Spark nudged him gently with one wing. "Don't be. They already respect you more than most beings they've observed for centuries. You changed 12 million years of policy with one act of kindness." Marcus looked out at the stars, marveling at how far he had come from that moment in a maintenance corridor when he'd found a dying hatchling. He'd never imagined that simple act of compassion would change not just his life, but the course of galactic history. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I sometimes miss the simplicity of being a janitor. Clear problems, straightforward solutions." "You're still solving problems," Spark observed, "just on a slightly larger scale." Marcus laughed. "Slightly? We're restructuring interstellar diplomacy and introducing technology that's millennia beyond current understanding." "True," Spark conceded, golden eyes twinkling with amusement. "But the principle remains the same. You see a need, and you meet it. You see suffering, and you alleviate it. Whether with a mop or a diplomatic treaty, you're still the same Marcus Dean who stopped to help a dying creature when no one else would." As they stood watching the continued integration of their peoples, Marcus felt a profound sense of rightness. His life had changed irrevocably, but he wouldn't have it any other way. "I think this is just the beginning," he said, watching as a massive dragon elder guided a group of young scientists from various species toward the research wing. Spark nodded, wings unfurling slightly in what Marcus had come to recognize as a gesture of optimism. The beginning of a new age. For all of us. Together, the human janitor and the dragon hatchling turned to join the ongoing work of building bridges between ancient wisdom and youthful innovation, all because someone had stopped to help a dying creature in need. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.